Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel, 6:11 a.m. It is Saturday, March the 29th. I've got my big blue mug of coffee. I hope you're having a great start to your weekend. I am. I woke up this morning and I've hit 20,000 subscribers on this channel, so thank you so much for that. If you'd like to help me make it to 21,000, just click subscribe right there, and maybe we'll make it there by the end of the weekend. So I wake up thinking about strange things. If you've been here before, you know how I am. And I thought this morning, despite all of the glowing reports of the Mark Carney campaign and how well he's doing in the polls, and I don't tend to believe them, I'm starting to think they're false. Things are not going well for Mark Carney. Everything he's done in his life and things that he said in the past have come back to haunt him since he became a politician. And I thought I'd run through a few of these things today. And I'm going to start off with the story that broke yesterday. Now, if you haven't seen my video, watch that. Candace Malcolm did a great job from Juno News on this. I'll put a link in the description. She ties everything together nicely. But the story is that Mark Carney is going to cave to Donald Trump on everything when it comes to the tariffs if he's elected on April the 28th. Here is Conservative MP Michael Barrett talking about that.
We've now seen the leaked Liberal plans from the media company that employs Mark Carney's top advisor, Gerald Butts, that employs Mark Carney's wife, and until a couple days ago, employed Mark Carney's star candidate, Evan Solomon. And it says that after the election, Carney will quietly fold and give in to Donald Trump's demands.
So next up on the list, I'm going to try to keep this short for you, Brookfield, Carney's company, avoiding taxes with offshore accounts.
Now, Mark Carney was also dealing with controversy today. The Liberal leader was asked about his previous position with Brookfield, a global alternative asset manager, and the use of Bermuda as a tax haven. CTV's Judy Trin is in Windsor. And Judy, tell us about the backlash that Mr. Carney is now facing.
Sandy, Mark Carney really wanted to talk about the Liberal policy to protect the auto industry. Instead, he was pressed on his previous job with Brookfield Asset Management.
Look, I'm beholden to absolutely no one except to the Canadian people.
The job Mark Carney wants, to be Prime Minister, could be impacted by the job he had as chair of Brookfield Asset Management, where he managed two investor funds valued at $25 billion, registered in the tax haven of Bermuda. As Carney appeals to middle-class voters like auto workers, his opponents are using the information to try and undermine him.
He chose to register in another country to avoid paying those taxes. That's less money for healthcare, less money for seniors.
Staying with Brookfield, his lies about moving Brookfield to New York City.
I was chair of Brookfield Asset Management. I ceased to be chair on the 15th, I think, of January.
Toronto-based Brookfield Asset Management is moving its head office to New York from Toronto.
The decision, the formal decision of the board, happened after I ceased to be on the board.
Up next, Mark Carney seems to like to take credit for things he's not done before. Brian Lilly did a great video on this, and here's a short part of that.
Stephen Harper has written a scathing letter denouncing Mark Carney for trying to take credit for things done by a man who's now dead, the late Jim Flaherty. Stephen Harper's longest-serving finance minister, the man who really shepherded Canada through the 2008-2009 financial crisis, and a man whose work Carney has been trying to take credit for as he seeks to become Liberal leader and Prime Minister of Canada. This is not the first time that Carney's tried to take credit for things he didn't do. During the Liberal leadership debate, of course, he claimed to have helped Paul Martin balance the budget in the Chrétien Liberal government.
Well, it was my privilege to work with Paul Martin when he balanced the books and kept the books balanced.
And of course, we know from his own resume that, well, Carney wasn't even in the country. He wasn't working for the federal government. In fact, he didn't join the finance department until 2004 when Paul Martin was already prime minister.
Mark Carney, as you know, is Mr. Net Zero. He has tried to discourage pipelines here in Canada while investing in them in other countries. Pierre Poilievre did a real good job on him when he was questioning him on a video call.
Do you support the Prime Minister's decision to veto the Northern Gateway pipeline, Mr. Carney?
I understand the veto of the Northern Gateway pipeline.
You support it?
Given both environmental and commercial reasons.
Do you support it?
I think it was sensible. I wasn't involved in the decision, but I think it was the right decision.
And yet your company has invested billions of dollars in oil companies in both Brazil and the UAE to buy pipelines. You bought billions of dollars of pipelines as a company in the last 5 years.
As he's running to be prime minister here in Canada, he says he's going to develop oil and gas in our resources, but in the background, he's not going to do that at all.
There is not a green switch that we can flip this afternoon and move from being economies where 4/5 of global energy is supplied by fossil fuels today and overnight be 100% supplied by renewables. That's not possible. But what is essential is there's not new investment in additional capacity that the world is not going to need. Society is putting tremendous value on achieving net zero. So the companies and those who invest in them and lend to them, who are part of the solution, will be rewarded. But those who are lagging behind and are still part of the problem will be punished.
You know, and I know that if you're in high school and you stole somebody's other work without giving them credit, it's called plagiarism. Apparently, Mark Carney likes to do that as well. Being with somebody doesn't mean you've done something wrong, but being associated with a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell, who was associated with Jeffrey Epstein, not a good look, and it's been brought up a couple of times on the campaign trail.
On ne reconnaît pas les peuples autochtones.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
Hey, Mark Carney, what about those kids on Epstein Island? Mark Carney, what about the kids on Epstein Island?
Carney has a good resume, including being the governor of the Bank of England, and he goes on and on about the great job he did there, but a lot of people don't think he did a good job at all. Here's former UK Prime Minister Liz Truss.
I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain of the governorship of the Bank of England. He created a lot of the problems that blew up on my watch and that I got blamed for.
Well, Mark Carney was governor of the Bank of England, and under his tenure, too much money was printed, which did damage to the British economy and put our economy off track. He, at the last election, endorsed Rachel Reeves' economic policy. She's now become Chancellor. It's been a disaster for Britain. The country is heading for bankruptcy. So I would strongly recommend not backing Mark Carney or his policies on net zero, which have been disastrous for Britain and would be disastrous for Canada.
Not only does Mark Carney invest in oil and gas when he says he's Mr. Net Zero and he wants to discourage it here in Canada, but at the same time, his company, Brookfield, was involved in an insurance company that likes to abuse its workers. Here's Pierre Poilievre.
We know that Mr. Carney's company abuses workers. They bust unions. They invested in companies that busted unions. He also, in a very tragic case, one of the insurance arm of Carney's company, Brookfield, profited by denying the insurance claims of coal miners dying from black lung. These are workers who, by breathing in dust in the ground, became extremely sick, and when they went to get the insurance that they had paid for, they were denied.
Those are just a few of the things I could think of in just a few minutes this morning. Again, Carney's only been a politician for a few months. The election's only a week old, but I have a feeling some other things are going to float to the surface before voting day on April the 28th. We'll keep an eye out for those. But things are not as rosy in the Carney campaign as you may think. Now, I want to leave on a positive note here. Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre is sounding very prime ministerial, and people are going out to see him in great numbers. So let's end with a couple of things that have happened to Poilievre over the last couple of days. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. On the way to 21,000 subscribers, and I'll see you in the next one.